Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Bebop here. Today we're going to be going over the musket for PvE M3s. Also going to be going over the musket for the PvP side. The musket in Savage Divide. I did hit 35,800 something shot the other day.
Oh, 31, 35. Yo, was that a 35K right there, bro?
As you see probably on the screen right now. And I was chasing that 35,000 mark for quite some time now. All right, now I'm chasing 36,000. But anyways, it's extremely hard to do. Let me show you how I do it. But first, I'm going to get into the gear that you want to run if you want to run it similar to what I do in M3s. Now, of course, I use Azoth crystal gear on a lot of things. I do have Nimble Coat also. And I have these gloves because I was, running with Hatchet. Basically, it's the two-perker. I'm not worried about it. I like to play with Hatchet sometimes in Savage. I actually hit a 12K light hit with the Hatchet earlier today. It was insane. Now, this is important right here. Empowering shooter stance. Hitting a target while in shooter stance grants a stack of Empower. Stack of Empower. Increasing damage 11% for 6 seconds. Effect is removed when stance is exited. Max 4 stacks. So, what does that mean? Well, I haven't slotted my attributes or anything, so don't mind the damage. But if I get down and start shooting, you will see at the bottom of the health bar a stacking the far right, the arrow to the right. So you can stack up damage to the 6 mark, and that's when you'll be hitting the hardest. And it'll just keep stacking as long as you have the perk in the tree selected. It'll stay at the 6 stacks. If you go more than 5 seconds between shots, it will go away. And then you have to start stacking again. So what you could do is always stack 2 right there, and then you can get shooter stance and actually stack to the 6 mark, and your final shot will be the power shot, and that's where you really will hit the hardest that way. Let's go into why you want to have that on there. It's going to help boost your empower and get you to empower cap. So that is a absolute must in my opinion to be able to hit really hard. And then a chain of ward and health, thrust conditioning, not really, it's just a 2-perker. So a lot of people are like, what bis, perks you got, weapons? I mean, dude, I throw stuff together as far as clothing. Only time I'd really bis it out if I used to play with my old speedrun crew or something, I'll really make sure every piece is, set to do something in the dungeon and not just a 2-perker. But nowadays, I just throw it in there, run with it, it's just fine. On the rapier, I have Thwarting Strikes, but we're not really worried about the rapier. Make sure you have a thrust damage ring on, okay, because that's what you're going to be doing. And also, I would say go with Empowering Toast. Now, I switched this earlier because I was running with the Hatchet and Nature's Wrath. So, I had the Empowering Toast on in the video because you could see me drink a potion, and then you see me do the kick, and then I get down and start shooting. So, I would recommend that. I believe it's not on this one for the bosses because I don't stick on the boss. I don't stick on the musket for bosses. So I just figured in this dungeon with the amount of different elements going on, Healthy Toast would be more preferable. I don't sit in shooter stance because on the last boss, you're really liable to get lasered or hit with fire. And on the first boss, you wouldn't be melee anyways. Super easy boss to melee down. But in the dungeon, Empowering Toast, I think, is a must if you want to hit hard with the musket. Now, since Savage is applying dots on our backs and it is frenzy, dropping void everywhere on the ground, you obviously not going to be full health for a lot, so diamond's not going to do much for you. This emerald right here, 16% damage as long as the target's below 50% health, and that's where you're going to start really doing more damage with the musket. And when the target's below 30% health, you're going to do a lot more damage with a musket. So now that we've gone over clothing, let's go over weapon perks. Now, I use Keen Vicious Refreshing Power Shot. I think it's best in slot. I don't think there's anything else you need to worry about unless you're perfect at hidden headshots, and you can go with Vorpal. Now, the Refreshing Power Shot is super important, so that way when you start off in your shooter stance with Power Shot, and then you go to Powder Burn, and by the time you're ready for the last shot, you can, boom, hit your freaking Power Shot, all right? That's where you want to do to get that last big hit. Now, there are other muskets I have here in my inventory. Now, here's the Artifact Musket right here. It's got Accelerating Traps, Mending Sticky Bombs, and Vicious. This is really good if you're maybe running PvP and you just want to throw traps down and sticky bombs and just shoot every now and then. I don't think anybody ever uses this, so The traps and sticky bombs cool down 20% faster. If you're running life ring rapier and you want to run this in dungeons just to get the traps to cool down faster, to constantly have faster movement speed, that would be really nice. You could do that. But in PvP, maybe if this was your backup weapon and your other weapon was, you know, whatever you wanted it to be, let's say, I mean, people don't really use rapiers, say hatchet or whatnot, at least you'd be able to throw these sticky bombs a lot into clusters, throw some traps down to trap people and get up close to them, do some damage, you know. But other than that, this is just really not used much out there, sadly. It's one of the artifacts that are just kind of useless. All right. Here is another musket I will keep on me also. Now, if you notice, this one is Dex that I have slotted. I will keep a magnify on me or around me in my storage, because sometimes if you're switching from the main dungeon set to the boss set, you want to keep a magnify musket if it matches up correctly. Well, my sets match up perfectly with having a Dex one, so there it is. That's the only reason why I would switch it out. Now, let's go over another one that people might use. Vorpal, keenly empowered, empowering shooter stance. Now, if the shooter stance is on the weapon, it's going to be 16% for 6 seconds. And you got keenly empowered. Gain power 4 or 5 seconds on critical hit. And so that will definitely get you to empowered cap. And then you're just going to be trying to hit headshots a lot. So what I used to do last time Savage was here, when you're fighting a big enemy and he falls down to the ground, like let's say we're meleeing behind him and he falls down to the ground, I would rotate right to his head, lay down, and just start popping his head over and over and over. And I was able to get up to like 100k, 128k damage in those 5 shots, or I guess 6 if you count the roll dodge hit afterwards. Now, keenly jagged, since the keenly jagged change happened a while back where only one person in the group is going to have keenly jagged, whoever has the highest DPS with whatever the weapon is that you're using at the time. So you'll take keenly jagged away from the tank if you use this. This would be more PvP, because keenly jagged is really nice to have in PvP. Vicious, refreshing power shot. I would use it there. All right, so we can get to accelerating traps now. All right, I have one that's intelligence, and I'll usually keep one that's Dex on me. Apparently, I brought 2 intelligence one.
I don't know what I'm doing.
And now when you throw the traps down, you have accelerated movement speed for 5 seconds, and you will move a lot faster. Remember, also, every time you dodge with the musket, you'll get 3 seconds of haste. Now, a lot of speedrunners will use this to get through the dungeon really quickly. 33% movement speed for 5 seconds after deploying a trap. Does not stack. Traps now apply bleed for 16% of weapon damage. So you cannot throw 2 and think you're going to get extra speed. You just throw 1, you get that 33% movement speed. You can roll, and now I got 2 sources of haste. I can roll again, finish it out, and I can really get around the dungeon quickly. So that's what the accelerated traps are used for. If you see a lot of speedrunners, score runners, this is what we use. Traditionally, I still use what I use because I like to hit numbers with the musket. All right, I care less about throwing the trap down, but if we're taking it seriously, you got to use it. You just have to. It's so fast. All right, so PvP. Vicious, penetrating headshots. If you can hit headshots, that might be okay, but really I wanted to show you this. Crippling powder burn. Targets hit with powder burn are slowed by 45% for 5 seconds. That sucks. I've been hit with this plenty. If you're a musket user and you want to play in PvP, go ahead and slow targets down basically almost 50% for 5 seconds. Man, you hit them with that, and then you just have all day just to line them up, hit that headshot. All right, let's talk about the musket for PvE. The most damage you're going to get is in a bleed rapier build. Now, 350 int. You can go 25 focus if you want. I still hit that shot with 25 focus because I like to have the cooldowns for the rapier. Even though I have nimble coat and 4 out of 4 refreshing, I still like it. And you can feel free to not put more in dex if you want. But this is the setup I go with. Now, I did have 48 dex food, so that would be, I have 36 on right now, so another 12 into dex would be statted. Also, make sure you have orichalcum bullets or cartridges. And I have my keen, vicious, refreshing power shot 700 gear score musket. I also have the empower shooter stance on the clothing. So the rapier is beneficial because it applies 15% more damage to bleeding targets. Okay, that's on both weapons. So your musket's going to be hitting harder because the enemies are going to be bleeding. So what we want to do from here, after we already establish our attributes, you want to go to Weapon Mastery, Musket. And now we want to select our skill tree. So I usually go with this setup right here. Feel free to vary if you want, if you think something's better. I always go left side ultimate because I believe that's the best side. And here we go. That's the one I go with right there. I always set shooter stance up here, refresher power shot there, and powder burn, but that's up to you, however way you like it. Now, what's the benefit of all this? All right, let's start off with the power shot. This is what the first shot is going to be, is power shot. You're going to overload your musket with gunpowder, causing the next shot to deal 160% weapon damage, and then an additional 30% to hostile AI targets. Now, you start off with power shot because then you get in power. When you hit with a power shot, gain in power, increasing damage 10% for 5 seconds. So when you follow up that power shot, sorry, I'll do this the whole time. Power shot, follow it up by powder burn, you're going to get that extra 10% in power damage. Power shot deals 10% additional damage to targets with full health. So we'll go to powder burn. Overload your musket with powder burn. You're basically do 20% weapon damage as fire for 9 seconds. Now it's going to be like 9 to 14 seconds depending on how much debuffs are on the enemy, and the weapon damage will go up with more debuffs and rends on the enemy. Standard musket shots deal 12% additional damage if they hit a burning target. So when you go into shooter stance and you start off with power shot, and then you follow a powder burn, and now all these additional shots are doing 12% additional damage because they're hitting a burning target. So that's going to help us out. Okay, now let's go over this right here. If 2 or more targets are hit with a single shot, the duration of the next reload is halved. That helps you get through your cycle faster. On successful headshot, gain in power, increasing damage dealt for by 10% for 5 seconds. Players entering a crouching aim stance to enhance shooting performance. While in the stance, shots deal 100% weapon damage. Mobility is reduced to 0, and reload time is reduced by 75%. Shooter stance ends after 3 shots. Power shot and powder burn can be used while inside shooter stance. Shots fired before exiting stance increased to 5. So instead of just being 3 shots, it's now 5 shots. 3 shots consecutive hit the same target, reduce the other musket cooldowns by 25%. Successful hits with the musket grant a stackable 2.5 damage increase. The effect ends after more than 5 second passes between shots. Max 6 stacks. This is what's really going to help elevate your damage. Because if you say 6 stacks times 2.5, that is 15. So you'll have a 15 stackable damage increase. All right, 15%. Musket shots deal 10% increased base damage to targets 20 meters or further away from the player. Also deal 5% increased damage to targets within 50 meters. So if you're within 50 meters but farther than 20, it would be 15% on top. So you can really stack up damage there. I'm not sure how far. I wish there was a gauge to where I could see how far I was away. Now, I'm going to mark this target right here. All right. We can all agree that is right there where the target is. Now I'm inside 20 meters. Okay. Because if you look at that mark, that's 11 meters. Now, let's see what kind of damage we do here with the final shot of power shot. 13, 3, 2, 1. All right. Now, if I ping there again, and if I go farther back than 20 meters, where are we here? 19, 20. All right, we're at Jordan meters. I can't see crap with that bush there, or with that ping there. All right, we're at 23 meters. I'm going to unping. There we go. All right, we'll start it again. All right, instead of 13, 3, 2, 1, it's 13, 9, 8, 1. Let's go back into the skill tree. The ultimate grants 15 damage increase to all headshots. If multiple targets are hit with a single musket attack, the next shot within 3 seconds inflicts a bleed to all targets. Shots passes through, dealing 15% weapon damage every second for 5 seconds. What we talked about earlier, basically keenly jagged. All right, over here, deal 10% increased damage to targets below 30% health. That's why you really want to try to get them and get that final power shot when you have all your stackable damage here, you want to try to get that last headshot to be a power shot and everything to match up below 30% health to do the most damage. All right, the bleeds have gone away. I'm more than 20 meters away. Let's go ahead and do this. Power shot, powder burn. 16,157. So you see how much damage increase that we got there, which is a lot more than what we previously got. Because now if we go to this dummy, we're back to 13,981. That's a damage increase of 2,176, ladies and gentlemen. So you can really see how you can start stacking up numbers like that. Now in Savage Divide, you're going to hit harder with a gold boon potion. Okay. If you're not familiar with those are, let me show you. This is why a lot of people love running Savage Divide. This is the gold boon. It's highly expensive to get this. So if you're like, well, no wonder it's 27% more damage. Yeah, mother. Okay, well, go ahead and go get you this potion. See how much money you spend. It's going to be over 100K. Until 27% more damage gained. Increased loot from creatures in Elysian Wilds for 270 seconds. There's different potions you can do. Now one of the beginning Elysian Wild missions in the main story quest, the MSQ, is going to be for the vial that you're going to need to make these at. You're going to make them at the arcane repository, and you will scale them up, and I'll show you that in a bit. Now for dungeons where I'm trying to just run and stay on the rapier real quickly, let's say speed runs, and I don't want to be in shooter stance out of respect for all the group, I'm going to go run something like this. I'll show you a couple different variances like this, but basically I got sticky bomb now. Throw a range bomb that sticks to anything, makes contact with. Detonation will occur 3 seconds after impact, which feels like 10 seconds, with 210% weapon damage to all targets within 3-meter radius, which is fire damage. Okay. So then I would just run up to a cluster. I see the tank's about to aggro. Boom. I would load power shot, follow up powder burn, and then the grenade will blow up for a lot of damage. And then I would immediately go to rapier. All right, that would be the easiest way, because if you go in shooter stand and start shooting with musket and you're a rapier user, especially bleed rapier or something like that, yeah, your team's gonna look at you like you're crazy. Okay, it's easy just to throw the grenade, go ahead and power shot, powder burn, get right into rapier damage. Okay, basically with that grenade, the power shot, and then the powder burn, you're gonna be doing quite a lot of damage. All right, so in shooter stance, one thing that was troublesome for me when I was getting used to the musket, you can go down a shooter stance, and sometimes you want to try to dodge out of it. Sometimes it's kind of sticky when you get into shooter stance and you start shooting. It's like, man, come on, get out of there. Well, all you got to do, whatever button you press to get into shooter stance, just press right out, and you press again, you get right out. That's the quickest way to do it. If you try to dodge just right out, a lot of times it will stick. So try not to do that if you get caught in that situation. It's a small thing, but it's a thing. So all right, I think I went over pretty much everything as far as the musket is concerned. If you have any questions or you have a recommendation for a video, go ahead and let me know, and I will go ahead and try to make that video. I had a request for this video, so I've made a couple different musket / rapier videos here recently, but I never went fully into the musket for both PvE and PvP / just a full video on the musket alone. I stream every day live on Twitch, so feel free to check that out, and hopefully I'll see you there or in another YouTube video. If you like the video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you later.